Welcome in. Welcome in.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Come on in. Oh, yeah. He had a couple.
Here.
Yes, Dusty had a few comments to say.
He's saying welcome too.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Dar from Dar's Divine Connections, where we make impactful, life-changing connections. And I'm here with Dusty Boy as usual, but my special guest, Coach Carrie.
Hello. Carrie, go here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. I have my special guest here that I'm interviewing. So welcome in. Good to see you. Good to see you. And this is Coach Carrie from Super Strong Chick. I love saying that name, by the way.
I love it too.
Hello. Carrie and I met about a year ago.
Right to the date, didn't you just remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
We just saw pictures that we're just celebrating our 1-year anniversary of knowing each other, soul sisters. So the interesting thing about meeting Carrie was we met at a women's conference, but we met over the buffet table.
Of course, food.
Looking for healthy choices. Now, I was looking for gluten-free, and I was looking for, the fruits, the vegetables, the life force foods. And what were you looking for?
I'm sure
Carrie?
I was looking for protein. My whole world is about how much more protein can I get in. And so I must have been looking for the meat.
That's
somewhere.
what I thought too. Looking for the meat. So be sure that you throw out any questions that you might have during our conversation. And some of you hopefully read Carrie's story. We sent that out. So if you didn't get to read it, hopefully you'll read it later.
You can always direct you to my site and stuff too. I've got
Right.
all that out there,
Yeah,
so.
we're going to be
Yep.
directing you to Carrie's site so you can learn more about what she has to offer. So, I just have to ask you right off the bat. You know what I'm going to say.
I know. And I love it.
How did you come up with such a bold business name? Super Strong Chick.
So Super Strong Chick, it just came to me when I was finishing up my coaching certification and getting ready to kind of delve into the whole business side of it. And I'm like, I've just got to get quiet because I've got no clue, what I'm going to call this. And so I did. I just got kind of quiet and it came to me and it was perfect. And the reason I went with Super Strong Chick is because to me, strength is even more so than physical body strength. It's strength of mind, of spirit. And my health journey that we'll talk some about here this morning really got me to a place where I learned what strength I had, both inside and out. Physical strength, I got into weight training, all of that, but it was really the mental, emotional, spiritual strength that I didn't even know that I could possess, that I was able to cultivate. And so that seemed perfect, and that's what I help my clients find, that strength inside and out.
Thank you. And we have a few, I recognize some names here. We have a few people that are tapping into their emotional strength right now, that are grieving like the death of a loved one.
Yeah.
For sure. I know that's happening with a couple of those people.
Yeah, those are tough times.
So what shifted in your life and motivated you to take this massive action of being a super strong chick? Like, what was your light bulb moment?
Oh, there's been a few, but the first biggie, let's go back about 10 or so years, and even prior to that, the quick little Reader's Digest version of my history is grew up, my mom passed when I was 15. With some health issues, and then I had 2 older sisters and of course my dad, and over the course of the years lost both of my sisters and also lost my dad, declined with Alzheimer's, but my oldest sister, Susie, she passed away. It's just coming up on 10 years, and various health issues, all of these things were going on, and myself, I was well over 350 some pounds and had been working a corporate job that I loved and was good at for 20 or so years, but I found myself at my own health crossroads, and I had that aha moment where my entire immediate family was gone, and I thought, I'm going down the exact same path, and I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And so what do I do about that? And so it took a year or so of kind of flailing about, not really getting too serious about anything, but had a good friend, my friend Beth, that was working with the trainer, and she said, what are you going to do different this year? We were all sitting around on New Year's Eve, and I thought, I'm like, well, thanks.
Wow.
And lots of us were struggling with health stuff, and I agreed that I would go and at least meet him before my birthday in March. And it wasn't up until like the week before that I actually pulled that trigger, and we'll talk some about that. But it really was that moment of realizing, okay, my family is gone. There are a lot of things that I still want to do with my life, and I want to be healthy and feel good. And I had no idea how it was going to go or what all I needed to do, other than I had to just start making some changes. And that was my biggest aha, was I didn't want to die.
Don't want to die. Time to change.
Yep.
Wow. That's a heavy one. We just had Regina, yes, super strong chick. She loves it. I do too. It's like, what a bold title she picked. And how far she's come that she can come tell us about it too. Mm-hmm. So, 300 pounds.
Oh, wow. It was well over 350. And that was maybe 355 was probably maybe the last time I had weighed myself.
Sure,
so I think it had probably been higher either before or after.
I'm sure you wouldn't want to.
And I was diabetic. Still am diabetic. 25-year diabetic, diagnosed in my early 20s. And so when they waffled, are you type 1, type 2? You're so young. And I'm like, well, if I lost 100 pounds, I don't think I'm a type 1, And so I think it was all of that was swirled in there, and insane amounts of insulin, and it was just. I was the walking poster child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I love the story about her when she first stepped into the gym. I just love it because I think all of you who are maybe, vacillating between walking into a gym and working out, most of us know. Now there's more places for women, but in the old days, walking into a gym was like walking into a male haven.
Yeah.
I know, because we owned a fitness center.
I loved learning that about you. We're like, oh, there we are, we're connected again. There's the whole fitness piece.
We owned a fitness center here in a small town. But I love the story about when you first stepped into the gym. So please share us what that whole
I would love to. That's
thing.
one of my favorite pieces of my story too. I always laugh, and when I write a book, I'm going to call it "A Girl Walks into a Health Club." And so it was Lifetime Fitness here in the Twin Cities. And like I said earlier, my friend Beth, she'd been working out with this great trainer, and she's like, "Oh, he's great. He really customizes workouts. He works with folks that primarily have difficulty exercising." And I'm rolling my eyes. How many times have I joined gyms over the years? And so another girlfriend, she pulled the trigger, and she was working with him. So now we had two of my friends, and I thought, all right, I'll tag along. So went along with another friend for one of her sessions, and met with Trainer Kevin. And those of you that are familiar with my story, you've heard about Trainer Kev for the last 8.5 years. But it was really another one of those aha moments, and it was a real connection. I always say you got to find the right one that you can work with. I was lucky I got mine on the first try, but I tagged along, and I could tell that he was testing to kind of see what I could do, where he'd try some little step-ups, and when he'd give my friend Leanne something to work with, he'd kind of hand me something to do, where he was kind of gauging the situation. And then we sat down and chatted for a little bit afterwards, and in my mind I'm thinking, oh, what's this guy gonna do for me? Just another run at a health club. But he was kind, and he was real, and he listened, and he was honest with me. And he said, I'm gonna be truthful here. You've got a lot to lose, and it's gonna take a long time, and it's gonna be hard. And I'm not willing to get on board. I'm not interested if by summer, now keep in mind this is March, right, for my birthday, if by summer you quit showing up. But if you're really ready and you want to make this commitment, I will be with you for the long haul. And he was, and he has been. I mean, we're still working out together a few times a week, 8.5 years later. And I'm down 10 jean sizes, totally different career.
10 jean sizes.
I'm off of insulin. I'm deadlifting 260 pounds. And my life has went in a completely different direction than I would have ever imagined. And so he always says to me all the time, oh, but you've done the work. And I own that. I have. But I found the right one that I connected with. And when we started, I mean, I couldn't even go on a treadmill for 10 minutes. But he met me where I was at. And we just started. And so that's where some of those small steps come in, is it was just little by little by little. And I knew I wasn't going to flip that switch overnight and lose all the weight and be, running a marathon, but we just started. And so that's what drove also me kind of going into this direction with my career, is to help folks not feel so overwhelmed. And if I wouldn't have had that personal connection already and that referral, I think walking into a big chain health club like that would have been even more frightening. It was overwhelming enough as it was, but I had friends along the way. But that was a big moment, and it was scary. But here was this kind person that really kind of lifted me and started me on my journey. And so that's what made the difference.
And those of you in the community that need that little push, Carrie is available online. I'll just put that little plug in there to help give you that little push, because she had people that helped her as well. But can you believe, the difference? Wow.
Yeah.
10
and it
minutes,
feels so different.
10 minutes max on a treadmill and 10 sizes down. Wow. Isn't that something? That's like, just be proud. We'll give you a trophy, pat you on the back, but no outside motivation can do what intrinsically she's got going on. That is so cool.
Well, and I always like to talk too that I was so hung up, I think, on the weight piece, which most of us are. That's what society has taught us to think about, all that excess weight and all of that. And I thought, once I lose the weight, that's going to fix everything. And, you get that first 80 or so pounds off. And I thought, now everything's great. Well, no. There's
80 pounds that's turn your life around.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was more the internal work.
Yeah,
it's that mindset piece where that you learn it's nice, but that number on the scale isn't what makes or breaks the situation. It's all the other things going on. The grief that I was dealing with, the career stuff, all of that, where it's like, the weight didn't fix any of that.
No.
And that takes a long time to get that switch flipped in your mindset. It's great, but it's not the solution.
Yes, it's truly the mind-body connection. Absolutely. Thank you, Tina. Yeah, it is. Some of the people in our community read the advertisement about you coming on.
Cool.
Anyway, I said that she made a series of small changes, took small steps to lead to big change. And of course, she mentioned the self-care and the self-love. But we can get down to the why. And then once they find their why, what some of the small steps are. Could you go into some of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everybody, for coming on and saying hi, and lots of encouragement to you.
Yay,
and how beautiful you look.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
She just radiates, doesn't she? She has a beautiful light about her. And,
that's so sweet.
And that's why she's here
I'm so happy
to share her light. To share her light with us.
I always like to think about kind of the logistics of our health and wellness, and those are the things, the nutrition and exercise and all of those things. And I work primarily with women, and I always say we're pretty smart We know what we're supposed to be doing, but why aren't we? And that's where some of that mindset stuff comes in, and figuring out your why and all of that. But even before we break down nutrition stuff and exercise and some of those things that don't have to be as overwhelming, I think, as we make them out to be, some of that self-care and self-love play into the part here. So when I talk about some of those small steps, they're the things that we don't always necessarily think about making a priority. I'm really big on a gratitude practice and getting folks to start thinking about just 2 or 3 things a day that you can be grateful for. That's usually one of the first assignments I will give clients, is if they're not finding time to get their steps in, I got crazy and I don't want to track my food, and and some of those things, I'm like, well, I bet you can text me though 3 things that you're grateful for today. And so that's just a small little thing that we can start having them work on, because I'm a big believer that if you don't have gratitude for your current and present state, no matter what you weigh, no matter how out of shape you are, it's going to be nearly impossible to begin to progress to any kind of improvement. And that's where also ties in that self-love piece. You get to love yourself right now, today, no matter what your jean size is, no matter if you can get to the end of the driveway or not without huffing and puffing, no matter if you had 3 brownies last night, you get to love yourself the way you are right now. And it's that self-love that's going to get you to that next step. If you love yourself enough to realize, I want to feel better, I want to tap my why, that will start you down that path. So those are a couple of small things. And then just, again, back to some of those logistics, a little more movement. You don't need to be running a marathon. You don't need to be hitting 10,000 steps right now if you're only getting 1,000 or 2,000 in. Just try to increase those steps by 10%. It's all very reasonable. Water, everybody's hearing about, you should be drinking half of your weight in ounces is our recommendation, but that's pretty hard to do if you're only having a couple glasses a day, or you're having a lot of sodas.
Oh, and who wants to figure out the math?
Exactly. You don't want to, you're avoiding the scale as it is.
Yeah, right.
I always say, but that's motivation. As you do lose, you drink less water. You don't have to drink as much water. But
I don't want to figure it out.
But it's really kind of crowding out some of those sodas and those kinds of things. But hey, can you just get another 8 or 16 ounces in a day here for the next week or so? Let's focus on that. So it's really those small little steps that we can start to make that over time build, and then you'll see some significant change. Same thing, with me starting out. We just did those 10 minutes on the treadmill, and over the course of time, then it's like, another 5 minutes, or now I can go 20. Oh, gee, this last year I'm going a half hour. So it was just really slowly adding on. And so it's those kinds of small little steps. We'll sit down, identify, and what are some things that are reasonable that you can start to work towards, because you want it to be possible.
Yeah.
Because if they're too lofty, you're not going to do them. You're just going to get discouraged, and you're just going to bail on the whole thing. So what are some simple things that we can start to focus on? So I always like to start with, how are you sleeping? We got to get you rested. If you're exhausted, it's pretty hard to focus on any of this other stuff. Can we increase some movement a little bit? Can we create some awareness around nutrition? And if you're noticing any emotional eating, just be aware of it. I'm not saying you have to do anything about it, but start to have some of that awareness. And then that gratitude practice. Those are usually kind of some of the basic small steps that we start with.
Wow, I think I can do all of those.
Yeah. and they're usually things that you're already doing. We're just going to up-level a little bit. We're just going to up-level a little bit.
We did have a question come in. Did you talk about changing your diet? Not quite yet.
No. Oh, but we sure can.
Small steps.
Small
Baby
steps. Small steps.
All right, let's answer that question.
Yeah.
That's from Karen Lee. Thank you.
Okay.
Be sure to put in any other questions as they come up.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Diet. I always like to recommend to folks too, or suggest that as much as we fight it, if we are looking to change our body composition at all, 80% of that comes down to nutrition and what we're eating and how we're eating. But that's the toughest to change. And so my story with that was going in, again, Kevin brought in a nutritionist initially that I worked with, Debbie Kelly, and she started by just trying to introduce some vegetables. I was like, I don't do veggies. She's like, oh, come on, just a handful of spinach in your scrambled eggs in the morning.
Oh, now you really do them.
Do you think you can do that? So again, it's kind of a theory called crowding out that I learned as well in my certification. But okay, we're not going to go gung-ho, but how can we just slowly but surely start to crowd out some of the lesser desired behaviors with new? So that's where I was saying, just add another 8 ounces of water, whatever. So her method, her sneaky little method was, just put a handful of spinach in your scrambled eggs in the morning with some goat cheese. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I'm like, oh, these aren't so bad. And then I can remember coming into one of our sessions. We still laugh about this because we're still good friends. She came in with a big stalk of Brussels sprouts. She's like, did you know that they grow on a stalk? I'm like, no, I didn't. And so she's like, well, here's a good recipe for some Brussels sprouts. So I tried roasting the Brussels sprouts and I'm like, oh my God, these are awesome. So it was just slowly trying to work those veggies in. And then, fast forward, I hit a pretty good plateau about 2 or 3 years ago and kind of sat at a weight for a couple of years, which was okay. It's just what my body was going through. And then we realized I was in the midst of menopause. And so that's a very real thing, ladies.
Okay, that's real. That's called
real.
Tank it.
Yep. And realize that I needed some, as much as everything that I knew, I needed some shifts and some tweaks to my nutrition. And so I got back on board with some nutrition coaching through Lifetime. So my current nutrition coach, Carrie Anderson, shout out to all my peeps, my tribe. So we really sat down and looked at those numbers and realized, okay, my body has changed. Those hormones have shifted things. I really need to focus on protein. I really need to focus on fiber. And that's making those big nutrition shifts. And again, it was gradual over time where, let's just add another 10 grams of protein in a week and let's see if we can kind of ramp this up, that sort of thing. That's when then the scale started moving again, lost another 20 pounds over the next couple of years. And then that's when finally that helped me get my blood sugars reined in so that I was able after 25 years to get off insulin. So, and by no means is it keto, low carb. I always say I am not low carb, I am not no carb. I need that fuel in my muscles for the workouts. But I'm smart carb.
Lifting like
but
she is.
But I'm smart carb. And so, I'm not against it. It's just, I think, pretty hard for some folks to maintain for too long. And so that's, something we discussed too. But yeah, so the nutrition was really key. But it was gradual. And I always say, I'm never going to tell you you can't have a piece of cake again or that you can't have a Diet Coke. It's all in moderation. You deny yourself nothing. We're just negotiating. What are you having, when, and how? And so but that nutrition is key. And when possible, folks resist it. I'm a big believer of tracking. So you got to kind of know, especially if you're a diabetic and you're on insulin, you need to know what carbohydrates you're having so you can adjust doses and that kind of thing. So tracking has been key for me. It doesn't work for everyone, but that's been key. And then really figuring out some of those macronutrients.
Yeah. Somebody wrote about the importance of like being able to go to the gym and have a personal trainer and having that structure. Well, when you're 300 pounds, you know that you can't do it yourself anymore. Right. That was part of your turning point.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things that I always advocate is, get your cheerleaders, get your team. Yeah. And I think for so many years, I've been chubby since I was 10. And so that's part of my story too, where it was just every year, just kind of progressing. I don't know how many times I joined Weight Watchers, how many times I joined whatever different health club was in town, all of that. And none of it worked because I always say they're all good plans. They're not necessarily detrimental. Anything works if you do it. And I wasn't doing it. And I think so much of that, I just wasn't in the right mindset. And I would keep quiet about it. So if there was, unless there was like an at-work Weight Watchers program or something, then you might have a couple of coworkers that knew about it. But otherwise, I always kind of kept quiet because I always figured, well, when I fall off the wagon, you know, in a couple of months, I don't have to go back and tell everybody
And here
that I
it is
quit
years
again.
later.
But what was different with this time was I put it out there. And I went to my community and all my friends, and everybody was so supportive and cheering me on. And that made all the difference in the world, to have that community of support, not only the professionals that I brought into the mix, but then there was also energy workers and body workers and acupuncture. And I mean, I've got a list a mile long of all the folks that have been part of this journey. And it really was going ahead and putting it out there and then embracing their support. I didn't have to do this alone. I didn't have to keep it quiet. And that, I think that was a big differentiator as well.
And she really stressed the importance of community, and we're all about community here, right? Community and connections and not having to do it alone. And there's so many pieces. And one of the things that many of you have in common in this community is your interest in the energy healing. And she just mentioned that. And that's something that her and I have in common too. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit about how Reiki came into play into your life and how you've actually jumped on that Reiki bandwagon.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I had several folks that crossed my path, even more so recently in the last few months, go, well, you know, you're an empath. You know that you're an empath. And I'd be like, well, yeah, I guess. That makes sense, I suppose. And I have a cousin, Chuck Bow, who is a 25-year Reiki master. And again, this kind of kept crossing my path where it would come up about Reiki. And I'd had some sessions and stuff in the past. And the more I thought about it I just felt, wow, what an awesome modality to bring into the mix. And so worked with Chuck, got through my first 2 Reiki degrees, and am incorporating that now into my coaching. It's not necessarily a requirement, so you know, different strokes for different folks, but it is a nice piece that I can offer that kind of dovetails in with the coaching and all the other work that I do. And it's a healing energy that I have really tapped into, and I really do feel that it's powerful for myself. I do Reiki every morning, as well as with my clients, and I also partner an office out of an acupuncture clinic in South Minneapolis, Ascent Acupuncture. We're on 41st and Grand, and so that is a great place for me to be able to offer that Reiki and offer our patients there that healing modality as well. And so it's just taken everything again to that next level. We talk a lot about up-leveling, but I feel in my own health and wellness, and then be able to share that with clients has been really awesome.
We have several empaths in our group that knew they were empaths, but some of them who are just like, yeah, I think I am, you know, and we did like a challenge a while back on seeing what your gifts and talents are. So we have several self-identified
Very
empaths
cool.
here, right? So how do you think that played into everything that you were going through? The diabetes and not knowing you're an empath and going into different environments and
Sure.
feeling that you not having that self-love, you know. So
I think in not necessarily understanding it at the time and not really tapping into a lot of that. And I'm even thinking back, 20 or so years ago, or even like when my mom passed in my teens and that kind of thing, was really taking on others' guilt and stress and anxiety, and then deflecting my own self-care and self-love, where it's like, oh, Dad's grieving, he's having a tough time with this. By the time my mom passed, my sisters were both up and out of the house. It was just me and Dad at home. And so there was almost that sense of, ooh, don't get into my own feelings or my own grief, because Dad's got enough on his plate. He's just happened to get up and go to work, and he's trying to manage his own grief. I don't want to make it worse. That kind of thing. Even though he's very loving and never said any of that, that was, what you project. So I think I was picking up a lot of that. And then even as my sisters became ill and, work stress and all of those things, I think it just all came in and sat with me, but I didn't necessarily realize. I thought everybody felt that way. And so it wasn't necessarily, top of mind until I started to make some of my own shifts in health and wellness and loving myself and realizing, boundaries are okay and no is a complete answer. And I need to take care of myself before I can really be of much service to anyone else. And it's cliche, but it's true. I think it was Marianne, I can't remember now exactly who started that whole phrase with, you got to use the oxygen mask before you can help anybody else if the plane's going down. So I think getting a grip on some of those empath qualities helped me navigate a lot of that better.
Yeah, and we talk about, learning how to protect yourself and learning how to bring all your energy to center. And that's where you mentioned the Reiki every morning, and I do healing touch every morning. I do a chakra connection. And some of the people in this community have been taught in the breakaway energy and stress. And I did 10-minute tips to self-care last year when I was going through caregiving of Charlie. I came on and I said, hey everybody, I need 10 minutes of self-care, so let's do it together.
Perfect.
So we did that. We did about 12 of those, I think. 12 weeks worth of.
That's perfect.
10 minutes. And it sounds like that's something you believe in. Those
definitely. I would say everything's better with a buddy, with your tribe. Even starting out when I was working out, I had a couple of other girlfriends that were working out with Kevin too, and so we'd agree, once a week, let's get together and get on the treadmill or whatever. And so I think to have your community and have folks be able to share that with you and have that accountability as well as the support it just makes all the difference in the world.
And everybody, Carrie is part of our community, and so she will be going in and looking at all your comments and responding to them. And we're trying to respond to some of them live right on the spot here too. So keep putting your questions in there. We appreciate it. So this is Coach Carrie and Super Strong Chick. For those of you who just came on, and welcome in now and welcome in on the replay. And I'd like you to just talk about what makes you unique in this online world of all these many coaches. And I am going to say 10 jean sizes down and starting at over 350 some plus pounds does make you unique. You've been there, you've been in the fire, but how about talking a little bit about that?
Definitely, I would love to. And I think it's that experience piece. I'm relatable. I have been there. And by no means am I going to probably ever be the little Barbie doll that's just going to tell you to eat a salad. And so so I think it's that relatable piece that is a differentiator. And of course, my story. And the ongoing persistence of it. Just my nutrition coach just sent a podcast a couple weeks ago that was great. I drawn a blank on the name, but the one thing that he wrapped it up with is he said he was a registered dietitian. He said if I had one thing to share with folks that I didn't know 20 years ago that would be kind of a differentiator to share with folks would be to just keep in mind that consistency trumps perfection every time. And so it's been that consistency. There's been ups and downs and plateaus and injuries. I don't know how many years we were dealing with bad ankles and bad knees and all of that. And so I understand all of that and know that it's a journey, and we start small and we make these small, reasonable steps as we go. And it's really that support that I think folks need, that I'm pretty hands-on with my one-on-one clients. So we're texting and there's emails, and we're really engaged and connected. And over the last couple of years, I've done a lot of work with my core values. And so those are connection, communication, and humor are my top 3 superpowers, if you will. And that all comes in to my relationships and my coaching. And so making that connection, understanding, being realistic. As I said before, I always say we're not denying ourselves anything. We're just going to be reasonable here and see what we can negotiate, and really defining, some goals and what are ways that I can support you, and really engaging my clients with what they want to accomplish, figuring out their why. That's got to be our big motivator, and really getting in and doing the work, and being a great support. It's been life-changing for me, and as we mentioned earlier, having that team, having Trainer Kev, was life-saving for me. I don't even say life-changing, I say life-saving. I always tell them I'm only allowed to get mushy once a year on our trainerversary, which is usually right around my birthday. But I tell him over and over again, each year at that time, that if he does nothing else in his life, I want him to know that I truly believe he saved mine. And if I can do that for anyone else, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why I made that whole life shift, left corporate and went down this journey. Is if I can be that for someone else, then it's all worth it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I got a little teary.
I always do too.
It's like, remember, I'm an empath, folks.
So you're feeling me.
So I'm
You're
feeling
me.
her. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Life-saving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why can't I just say I want to lose 10 pounds, babe?
Because it's all in that mindset. It really does get to that why. And I think so many folks are focused on actions, which are important. We have to take actions. I even talk about that. We talk about the law of attraction and manifesting and that kind of thing. I'm like, I can say all day long that I want a boat in my driveway, and then if I just sit on the couch and think the boat's going to show up, usually doesn't happen. So usually, I'm not going to say never. There are some powerful energies out there, but usually we need to take some action. But it's hard to take action if you're not really passionate and believe about why you want to. And so when I work with clients, we'll usually think, okay, well, why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to be thinner. Well, why? And we keep taking that why down about 6 levels. And then we get to what's really going to drive the behaviors. And so, for one example, I've got a client that I worked with, and as we really drilled that down, we finally got to, well, I want to be healthy and active so that I can see my grandkids graduate from high school. I want to be here for that. And they're like, okay, that's what we're talking about. This is even beyond my joints aching because of arthritis and it's hard to walk and those kinds of things. So once we tap into some of those kinds of things and you start to get tempted to veer off of your course and you remember those grandkids, that's more powerful than, oh gee, I shouldn't have the pizza because I want to lose weight. But when you're remembering those grandkids, that's going to be much more motivating. And it takes some action. Another thing that I learned through all of this, if you're just sitting around waiting for motivation or waiting for inspiration,
The motivation bus is coming.
it's not going to happen. You got to do it anyways. And I think Mel Robbins is the one that had a little clip about that, where you just got to do it anyways. And then the more that you do it anyways, and I've even, talked about this on Facebook before too, then it becomes habit. And as it becomes habit, then you start to see the results. And so it really is figuring out that why. That helps you shift that mindset. And as we keep focusing on that mindset piece and then build the habits, then you start to see the progress. But you don't just say you're going to lose 10 pounds, but then not take the steps that you need to get there.
And we're back to kind of your small steps
Mm-hmm.
and self-care and taking care of yourself and knowing your why. So one of Carrie's niches is diabetes. And even if you're not suffering from that right now, you probably know somebody who is. And so could you briefly tell us about your approach and how you help people with that specific?
Sure, definitely. I would love to.
She helps people with all areas of that balance wheel. But how about talking about your
I would love
that
to.
niche?
I would love to because I'm very
Because you've
passionate
been there, done that,
about the
still
diabetes
there.
piece. Yeah, definitely. So like I said earlier, I was diagnosed in my early 20s, type 2 diabetic, was put on insulin right away, and then over the course of 20 some years just kept jacking up that insulin and eating more and getting heavier. And I was very blessed in the sense that I, at least yet, knock on wood somewhere, that I haven't had any severe complications from all those years. But when I first, again, started working out and sitting down with that first session with Trainer Kev, I remember telling him the doses of insulin that I was on, and it was just like, oh my God. I had a double-digit A1C, which is the blood work for a diabetic. And so that was a big driver for us as well, and that's what really tied into my why, is because I knew that diabetes could kill me. Ultimately, it's going to keep just progressing, and that could easily do me in. So that was a big driver for me, and I see it so frequently out there in the world. Diabetes has just become an epidemic in our country. We've got like 38 million folks that are diabetic, and then even more that are pre-diabetic or don't even know. And they say like 1 in every 5 healthcare dollars can go towards a diabetes complication. And so it's huge, and it's manageable though, and it's a struggle for folks. And I'm talking primarily type 2s. I do work with some type 1s as well, but and I always say the emotional mindset pieces are going to be the same kind of struggles whether you're a type 1 or a type 2. But the type 2s we can really impact. And so I've got a sub brand of Super Strong Chick called Super Strong Diabetics, and I've got a Facebook page for that, and awesome. And some branding around that. I facilitate a monthly support group out of Ascent for diabetics. And so I just think there is another group that really needs that sense of community. They really need to tap those whys as well. Why do they want to get healthy? Why do they want to rein in some control of their diabetes? Usually they're just feeling so lousy that that's pretty big motivation to start with, so we can start to rein in those blood sugars and get them moving and eating smarter. And there's where the food tracking really comes in, where they need to do that, because that's the only way we can see what's impacting those blood sugars. And so that's an area that I'm really passionate about. Do some packages and coaching around diabetes. And I've had folks that have been able to even get themselves back to a pre-diabetic state. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but all of those habits that we talk about for anyone are even all that much more critical for a diabetic. And I always think back to years ago before I'd started any of this. I remember my doctor only once mentioned to me, because she was concerned about the blood sugars and the high A1C and all of that, where she said, well, would you ever consider, maybe we should talk about a gastric bypass? And she only mentioned it once, and even then, though, I had the wherewithal. And I said, that seems pretty invasive, and I know a lot of people have done it, and again, different sorts for different folks. But I said, even if we were to do that, I don't think we're getting to the root of the problem as to why I want to eat the pan of brownies in the first place. And so even then I had kind of that inner wisdom. I didn't necessarily do anything about it, and so even with the diabetics, it's a very real medical condition, but all that mindset stuff is coming into play, because it's usually come on board because of weight issues and that sort of thing. And it's not about a number on a scale. It's about, how do you feel? How can we improve your energy? The weight will come. It's usually a byproduct, but we really need to get to that mindset and that self-love and self-care so that you can rein in this disease and live a long, happy life.
Yeah, that was inner wisdom on your part. And I know, just right now, I was just thinking of 3 people that I know had, 4 that I know had the surgery. And there's only 1 in 4 that haven't gone back to their must go back to their old eating, because they don't look like they had the surgery.
Yeah.
And I think it's been like 10, 12 years, but they don't look like they ever had it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's extreme.
And
some folks it has worked for, but that's pretty hard to maintain, how limiting your nutrition and things need to be once you come out of that surgery. So, and I've worked with clients on the other end of it when they've had the surgery, and years later they're dealing with nutrient deficiencies and having to give themselves big syringes of vitamin D because their system isn't absorbing it, and they really struggle with it after the fact. And again, I don't want to put blanket situations out there.
No.
Some folks have had great success with it, but it's a pretty major deal to go down that road.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty interesting that your intuitive self declined that.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Because you knew there was something. There
Well,
were
and I
bigger
knew
problems.
I wasn't making the lifestyle shifts, the common sense that would help things get better.
Yeah, like when we lecture ourselves. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Should.
Yeah.
Shooting on yourself.
We can shoot ourselves, all the way down the road. It's just, okay, how do we flip that switch and start to really make some change?
And just to repeat some of the small steps, water.
Water, just a little more activity. Even if you can just increase steps by 10%, makes a difference. And then you just keep building on that. You don't necessarily have to be going into the health club yet or doing heavy weight training or any of that. Just steps. I think the recommendation is even 150 minutes a week, which comes out to roughly like a half hour a day if you did want to go out and take a walk around the block. But again, in my beginnings, I couldn't do that. I could barely go 10 minutes. So you just start where you're at, and we just keep layering on. So water, sleep, those steps, and start to be a little more conscious of your nutrition and what you're eating and why you're eating. That took me a while to kind of have some of those ahas when I realized that I wasn't even hungry, but yet that last sleeve of the Girl Scout Thin Mints were calling to me from upstairs, and I'd be like, well, wait a minute, they weren't even that good, and you're not hungry. What's really going on? Oh, I'm mad at so-and-so. That's why I want to eat the sleeve of Girl Scout cookies. And so when I realized, okay, eating those isn't going to help this situation any, and I'm just going to feel worse because I just ate a sleeve of Girl Scout cookies, give them to the neighbor kid, and let's figure out what's really going on. So it's kind of those things, and those are skills that take a while to develop.
Yeah.
But you get there. For
sure. And she's an example of you can get there.
Yeah.
You can get there. Of course, when you mentioned, water and sleep, how about if I just do those two?
Well, to start with, that might be enough. Like I said, it's really master one or two things. We find that if we try to put too much on somebody and have too long of a list, it's overwhelming. You're not gonna do it, and then like I said earlier, you just kind of check out. So a lot of times we'll recommend, okay, what's one thing? What's one thing that we can focus on for this next week or two? And if they're willing to commit to that, something that they reasonably think that they can tackle, then that's what we track. And so, okay, I need more sleep. You're only getting 5 hours a night. We should be shooting for at least 6 or 7. Okay, can we add a half an hour on? Can you try to turn in a half an hour earlier every night, for the next week? And let's see. And then the next week, okay, we'll add another half an hour. Those kinds of things. And again, when I started, I just come off of my sister passing. I had been her primary caregiver. Things were crazy. And I can remember, again, my trainer saying, okay, if we do nothing else to start with, we got to get you off all this Diet Mountain Dew, and we got to get you sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
And so we started with just, all right, let's focus on trying to get 6-7 hours a night and starting to replace some of those diet sodas with water. And that was it for a while. So what's just one or two things that we can focus on that are those small steps, and we'll celebrate those victories, and then we'll layer more on when you're ready.
And then celebrate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like you said, then celebrate it. Like with me, it's like I had a Diet Coke the other day, and it was my first one in something like 8 years. And it was like, and I'm going back to no Diet Coke, too. It just
wasn't that great, was it?
No, it just happened to be what was there.
Yeah. Well, and I always say, too, and we can figure out rewards that aren't necessarily food-related. And, whether it's a manicure or some new music or, whatever works for folks. But also, you do want to have the occasional treat. if you think that you're never going to indulge ever again, that's no life. And so if you are though, but make sure it's worth it. We say don't, unless it's really your thing, don't waste it on the Pop-Tarts. Have the lava cake and then, be done with it and move on. The next day.
And one of her sayings, did you hear her earlier? She said, we're not denying ourselves anything. I love that.
Yeah, it's all just negotiation. And so if you are going to have some of those things, then, okay, well, maybe I need to go for a little extra longer walk. Or maybe I'm going to have, some extra veggies the next day to kind of make up for it or whatever. And so really, you're just, how do you work it in? How do you work it in? And anything's possible.
And we'll just take a moment to congratulate Crystal on losing 80 pounds.
Woohoo! All right.
Wow.
Yay!
All due to just totally changing eating habits and knowing the why.
Exactly.
So she must be a strong believer like you in the
Another
why.
super strong chick.
The why. Actually, when you were talking about that, I'm thinking, okay, my why is the joints. And then it's like, then she gets a little farther and it's like, no, my why is grandchildren too. I have 8 very active boy grandsons. And I know about getting down on this floor and playing trains.
Yeah.
And, it was not so easy 2 years ago before I lost these extra few pounds. But getting up and down off the floor was really something.
Yeah.
So I identify with that. There's a couple of yes, congratulations, Crystal. There's a couple other things that Carrie and I have in common. And one of them is our strong belief in the whole person, the life balance, the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And I describe it as a wheel with all 4 quadrants, equal and nice rolling around. But tell us a little bit about your unique approach. I know you have one.
Yeah. And that's what really drew me into the coaching and the certifications and education that I've had is the approach that there are primary foods and secondary foods. So I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that's their approach. And so the secondary foods is the nutrition piece. As I said earlier, I work with really smart women, and most folks are pretty savvy about what they're supposed to be eating and how much they're supposed to be moving and those kinds of things, but why aren't they? And so we've got that secondary food nutrition piece. But there are primary foods, and those are what truly feed us. And it's spirituality, career, relationships, and physical activity. And we find that the majority of the time, if there's something out of whack with those primary foods, then the secondary foods kind of fall by the wayside. And so, or the logistics of our diabetes management or our healthcare. And so, and it never fails, sit down, have initial conversations with folks, and it always comes up. Jobs driving me crazy. Kids are stressful, aging parents, illness. There's all kinds of things going on in our lives, and that's where we've talked some about even resilience. Those things aren't going away. We just need to learn how to navigate them and how resilient can we be to kind of bring ourselves back around and be in a healthier place as we're navigating some of those challenges in life. But by no means am I a psychologist, but as I work with clients and they start to identify what some of those challenges and issues are in those areas of their life and start to take some action around making those better, it's amazing then how the food and exercise and all of those healthier behaviors start to fall into place too. So that really is kind of that whole mind, body, spirit piece that comes together. And I know you've got a course coming up this fall around some of that.
I do.
Which I'm excited
Did you see how excited I got? I mean, I'm excited about the balance wheel too, and the primary foods. Did you expect her to call those things primary foods? I did, because I've heard her talk.
You've heard my
and
spiel.
Otherwise, no, the primary foods, right? So, congratulations. You cleaned up your diet too. Excellent. And have lost
Awesome.
90 pounds.
I love seeing that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
life-changing.
it's small steps, and it's life-changing. That's right. And feeling so much better. And I can identify with the feeling so much better. So the class coming out will be launching next month, and it's a purposeful, passion-driven life program. So a lot of the things she's talked about all kind of come wrapping in. It's clearing. Let me see. The first month is spent on calming the busy mind. And it has a unit every week, and then we go into clarity and focus, and we start to learn a little bit about planning and focusing, and then we're into the passions and the purpose and the gifts and the self-care and self-love. And then it makes full circle with momentum and motivation and staying on track. So it kind of takes my 40 won't say my age, but it takes some of my 40 plus years of being a master degree teacher, and then all the energy healing, having owned a fitness center, all those aspects of the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, all the balancing of the wheel, all put into a program that will be opening up to our Divine Connections community first. You'll get the first peek at it. So one of the things that I thought about as I'm talking about clarity and focus is that another thing we have in common is planning, that we're really big on planning and prepping for the week. So that's another small step.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big proponent of kind of taking any of those last minute decisions or distractions of having to prepare meals on the fly out of the whole mix. And so I really preach to my clients about, all right, take some time on the weekends, Sunday afternoons or whatever, cook up a couple batches of something, get your chicken breasts ready, roast up those veggies, and have it all in the fridge ready to go for the week. I do a lot of like overnight oats, not necessarily for breakfast, but they're good for after workouts. Those are good usually in the fridge for the week. If you're buying veggies and salad stuff, do them in mason jars. I love layering salads in mason jars, and you can prep all that stuff ahead of time, and then you're good to go. And that's what saves me from hitting the drive-through, getting off track with my nutrition. And then I like to use my Fitness Pal because I know what I have prepared for the week, and I can go in and plug all that stuff into my app and get all the counts that I need to keep tracking. So that's a huge tool that is really valuable. And if you can plan it, you're good to go. One other thing that I always like to recommend too is not only the meal piece, but your snacks. So I'm, every couple of months or a couple of hours having some sort of snack because I'm trying to get all that protein in. Plus, if we can keep our blood sugars stable throughout the day and we don't have those ups and downs, that's when you're going to avoid hunger. And if you're diabetic, any of those ups and downs for our blood sugars and how meds are working and that kind of thing. So if you can prep all those snacks and have those at the ready. I've always got my little SOS kit in the car where it's like beef jerky and some string cheese and nuts and some Greek yogurts and those kinds of things. So again, if I'm on the go and I'm feeling hungry, I'm not hitting the drive-through for fries. That was my favorite go-to. Oh, I'll just get some fries at McDonald's. And so those are really important to be planning towards.
So some of you, if that's one of your, what your favorite go-to is. I sure know my favorite go-to. And yeah, it helps to eliminate that when we prep. And not just prepping the food, but prepping your schedule so that you don't have some of those emotional triggers.
Yep.
Because if you don't have control over your schedule.
Yeah, I always say in the workouts and that kind of thing, even if it's just a walk around the block, put it on a calendar and give it the same respect that you would any business meeting, any conference call. Schedule it. Hold yourself to it. Again, that's where the buddy system comes in good. If you've got a partner or a neighbor that you can walk with or meet up to go to aerobics class with or something, that's important. And then also schedule some of that self-care and self-love. So everybody's different. I like to do it first thing in the morning and have with my cup of coffee, and I always put collagen in that coffee, but have my coffee and meditate, do the Reiki, do my journaling, my gratitude practice. It looks different for different folks. Some folks like to do it before bed, but if you can really even just carve off a half an hour of some of that, that'll set you up for a successful day too.
And I have a name for that. Those are my non-negotiables.
I like that.
So some of you who have done one-on-one coaching with me, we take that post-it note and we say, okay, what are your non-negotiables? What are you going to do every single day of this week at some point? We talked about, same with you, we talk about 3 things we're grateful for every day. For me, it's a chakra connection, a form of meditation. For some of you, it might be listening to a guided meditation. All of those things. But what are your non-negotiables? What do you not want to get to the end of the day, ready for bed, and have not done?
Yeah, I love that.
So those are the non-negotiables.
I like it.
So what else would you like to share with our audience today? We've gone almost an entire hour.
Oh my goodness, see, time flies.
Yeah, it does.
I think just kind of reiterating some of the things that we've talked about here, that there's so much focus around the weight loss, and I'm proud of that, yes, but the weight loss didn't fix all the things that were swirling around in my life. And it was really up-leveling and getting to a place of self-love and self-care and making my health and wellness a priority and not wanting to die. That really made the change for me. And it continues to evolve. I always, one last little story here, I always talk about a couple years ago, I was turning 50, and I was in the Target parking lot. And I was walking into Target, and it was right before my 50th birthday, and I thought to myself, I have been fighting this scale since I was 10 years old. 40 years. I'm done. All the energy, all the time, all the money that I've spent. Now, I'm not negating any of the work that I've done in the weight loss because it has gotten me healthier, but it wasn't even necessarily about size or vanity or anything by that point. 30 years ago, different story. But I that was another aha, where it's just like, I'm done fighting this. And then that's when I started to do some of the work and getting my hormones fixed and readjusting the nutrition. And then when I kind of let that go, that's when the next 20 pounds came off, and that's when I got off the insulin and all of that. So it really was that mind shift, that release of, I'm done fighting this. And that's what I hope to bring to others. Is it's all important, and it is one measurement. The scale is one measurement that we use for health and wellness, but it's not the end all be all. And you can get healthier. It doesn't have to be so overwhelming. It doesn't have to be so hard. And if I can help folks with that through the coaching, through my Facebook page, coming up in this next year, we're going to be doing more podcasts and more sessions and workshops and that kind of thing. If I can have some outreach with that and get over that hump of having to walk into that health club for the first time, that it doesn't have to be scary, it doesn't need to be so overwhelming, and it's totally doable. It's totally doable, and you can do it without a gastric bypass and without fad diets and without all the crazy, multi-level marketing products that are out there. It's just good nutrition, get moving, and get that mindset shift. And you can do it. You can do it.
Thank you, Carrie. I hope everyone's inspired like I am to just take those small steps. And Carrie's going to continue today to come. She's part of our community, so she'll continue to answer any questions and get a chance to read all the comments. And thank you for many of you
thanks
for
so much. This has been awesome.
Giving us your love and
Great
your
stories.
encouragement and sharing your stories too. So we'll be looking at those and talking about them and sending energy to you because you've got 2 energy healers here. So we're definitely sending love and caring and appreciation for all of you. So thank you for all the hearts and the thumbs ups. That's great. So Carrie will give you the information for getting hold of her. Those of you who didn't happen to open your newsletter, dig it out of your junk file and find the newsletter that came out on Monday. And there's an article about Carrie in there, and you can read a little bit more about her, how to get a hold of her, but she'll put it in the thread too.
Yeah.
So for now, we're going to sign off, everybody. Blessings your way. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. This was
It's
awesome.
been
Thanks, everybody.
lovely. So bye-bye. See you
Bye.
next
Have a
time.
great week.